We're standing in the museum at John Street United Methodist Church, a Methodist parish in New York City founded in 1766, when talk of revolution was still in its formative beginnings. This church, the oldest Methodist society in the United States, witnessed not only the American Revolution, but had incredible proximity to the inbreaking of the new way of life and governing in the nation's first national capital. As war broke out and more British regiments arrived in the colonies, the congregation of Methodists that existed here in New York was allowed to conduct worship services during the conflict because the Methodists were considered a sect of the Anglican Church, which was the national Church of England. As the formation of the Methodist Episcopal Church in 1784 was going on at the Christmas conference, at the same time, the former colonies struggled with national identity and their understanding of unity under the Articles of Confederation, which was a precursor to the United States Constitution. The divisions surrounded the ability of the new Congress to tax the nation's citizens, a national court system, the issue of enslavement in the southern region, and the flaws of a weak central government. There was no president or head of state to guide the national government, and though British troops had been withdrawn, the specter of a repeat conflict or encroachments from another corner of the world loomed large. Uncertainty was the only certainty. Meanwhile, societies of the new Methodist Episcopal Church chose to remain grounded in Scripture, fellowship, and prayer. As the country continued its grand experiment of self-governance, it was a bumpy ride at first. Events like Shays' rebellion against taxation shook the nation to its core. The nation was unable to consent to treaties with other sovereign countries, which created a vacuum of leadership and security in a moment of critical formation. In the summer of 1787, national leaders recognized that the need for a sturdier form of government was necessary for the survival of the country. Leaders from across the land gathered in Philadelphia to discuss possibilities for a new way of thinking about how our country should govern. There were fierce debates between the Federalists, those who supported the Constitution, and Anti-Federalists, those who feared centralized government and power. These two factions argued in public and private formats and finally agreed to a way that the country could better lead itself into the future. This agreement led to a creation of a national judiciary, a stronger congressional presence on the national level, and the formation of the office of the presidency. The agreement that led to the Constitution was far from perfect. There were failures in balancing power between the state and national level, and there were heinous and active oversights regarding the rights of women and those who were enslaved in the country. As famed elder statesman Benjamin Franklin left the meeting in 1787, James McHenry records that Elizabeth Powell asked if we had a republic or a monarchy. Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Benjamin Franklin's words would prove foreboding over the course of the next 250 years. After the new Constitution was ratified, an election was to be held in the new nation for the country's first president. This election would feel foreign to voters today. There were no political parties, no party platforms, and no overt campaigning or stump speeches. Each state selected electors through their local legislators or elections, who then selected their choice for president and vice president. The highest electoral vote getter would become the president, while the runner-up was named vice president. George Washington, Virginia statesman and leader of the Revolutionary Army, was elected the first president of the United States. John Adams, a prolific writer and thinker from Massachusetts, was subsequently elected the first vice president of the United States. George Washington's inauguration was set to be held on April 30th, 1789 at Federal Hall in New York City. This would set up an opportunity for the meeting of the minds between the nation's first president and the Methodists who worshiped at John Street Church. In May of 1789, Bishop Asbury personally delivered the greeting to the recently inaugurated President Washington. The president saw this as an opportunity to engage with the Methodists while also expressing sentiments about the wider religious landscape of the day. Washington hoped that this interaction would allow for a deeper understanding of both civic religious expression, personal piety, and faith expression. President Washington responded to the generous overtures in kind, writing of the interaction, quote, "I must assure you in particular that I take in the kindest part the promise you make of presenting your prayers at the throne of grace for me. And I likewise implore the divine benedictions on yourselves and your religious community," end quote. It was truly our nation's first venture into public theology. These interactions at the genesis of our nation show a deep entanglement between the Methodist tradition and the United States of America. The Methodist Episcopal Church and subsequent iterations would often find themselves entangled with the nation in healthy and unhealthy ways. Through it all, the church has often sought to be a beacon of faithfulness and righteousness for those in this country. We recognize that this holy work is both incomplete and still being worked out.